Shingling the roof is not difficult, but it takes a significant amount of time. And we're just going to align a row of shingles with every scribed line in the roof panel. We'll start at the bottom here with full-length strips of shingles. It's just another peel and stick part for us. We just line this up right on the line, and you want to be pretty precise here. It looks bad if it's off by a little bit, so just try to get the edge exactly on that line. And then when you do the next row, it's going to be staggered. So that just means that the joint between shingles has to line up over a shingle on the row that's already in place. You can kind of get it close to in place. Make sure that you're staggered. And then it seems to work best if I press it working from the middle out to the edge. So I can kind of wiggle this to get it exactly on the line, and then press it down from the middle outward. And as you get up into the middle, you're going to want to cut the strips because you can use the little pieces up above. So you don't have to be real stingy, but actually it's not going to be for a while. Okay, you can see as I'm getting toward the middle that I just tear off a little extra, because you're going to end up using these little pieces up here. When you get to the chimney hole, you're going to put a row right across, covering up the hole. And then you're going to cut that row away from the hole. You don't want to wait till all the rows are in, because it gets way too hard to cut this paper that the shingles are made of. So you very, very sharp blade, and you can cut away from the hole. And this is going to probably be for 3 rows that you're going to have to cut through a hole for the chimney. If you have trouble seeing where it is, you just go on the back and poke right through the middle, make a little hole, and you can see where you have to cut away. There will be a piece of flashing that covers this, so it's important to make sure the hole is clear. The shingles next to it might get torn up a little. This one's not doing too well here. But then it might not be apparent until you put this piece on that this one's going to cover the hole also. So it's important to get the hole completely clear, otherwise it gets really hard to insert the chimney later. So Just make sure that you get all the paper out of the hole there. Right, and then I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to finish up this segment plus the other two roof pieces, and then we'll look at how to assemble the roof. I put all my shingles on and they extend past the edges, so we're just going to cut them off, and this is the time to have a very sharp knife blade, and you just take some light passes here. You push down on the board and just take some light passes right along the edge of the board, especially at the tip. You don't want to pull those shingles away. But after a couple passes, this whole thing will come out. The same thing on this side. Alright, and I've obviously already done this on these panels. Here we have our roof panels. Now I'm going to glue them onto this piece. I assembled this already. This is the roof support pieces. So I'm going to use the A-leans here because we need to be able to reposition this a little bit. I'm going to fold this just so that it folds over. It's got a score line there. And this is going to go on this way. Now this is much easier to do on top of your building. So I'm just going to place the roof in place and put my A-leans on here. Alright, and then this is the one tricky part. You're going to center this as best you can, but then use the side piece to make sure that it's going to line up correctly. So you just press that into place. You might be able to see there's quite a gap over here. So I'm going to shift this around just a tiny bit. And that looks pretty good. Maybe pull this over a little. Alright, and that's about as good as it's going to look. You're not going to get a perfect joint here, but that's why we have the cap pieces. And you can check with the other side. And kind of wiggle it around till it seems to be the best fit for both sides. Yeah. And then you just hold it for a couple minutes, and then it's time for another short break while you let that glue cure. The original instructions say to glue all the panels on at once, but I've found it easier to do it in 2 steps. So one of the things you got to make sure is the chimney hole is on the side that there's a CH scribed in the roof panel, and that's important because it'll make the lamps come out in the right place. But so make sure the chimney is lined up with the CH scribed in there, and glue the first piece on, and then I'm just going to glue the second or the side roof panels on. But first I'm going to turn this over and just put a little of my ACC to hold these panels firmly against the ceiling. That'll help align the seams later. You want to avoid getting any glue in the slots. We need those open for the rafters. Alright, and then we're just going to glue the side panels in the same way we did the top panel. As I said before, there can be a little bit of a gap here because we're going to put ridge caps on there just like they do on a real roof for the same reason. So after you've glued on the panels, you can pull the seams together from the back side, apply a little bit of ACC, right along the seam, and that will help hold the seams in alignment. The next step is to install the ridge caps, and this is another peel and stick part, so it's easy to apply, but it's smart to put a crease in it before you apply it. So I'm going to use the plastic straight edge. You can use any kind of straight edge for this. Try to get this centered and then just fold it over the edge right down the middle, hopefully. So you just start the crease here. And then I would even fold it more. Then we're going to take off the backing like we always do. And start up at the top. Try to get that crease exactly over the joint. And then press it into place. And we're just going to turn it over and trim this off. We have a nice corner at the end there. So I'm going to put all 4 of these in place. I'm going to fast forward the video a little bit. Up at the top here, I'm going to cut off half of one of these shingles just so that it doesn't get too thick under the very top ridge cap. So I just cut off half of, so you can see this. So I'm going to cut off half of one shingle. You end up with that kind of shape. Try and line it up so it's even across the corner here. You have to press these pretty firmly. The sides tend to come up later on. I'll just trim this off. And then we have a short cap for the very top. So this one, you want to overlap the diagonal guys so you figure out where to cut. Try to make it come out even. Check that. And same thing, we're going to bend it over the square. A little hard to hold on to it. And we put this across the top. Okay, so at this point, I like to glue down the edges because several times when I've done this, the edges have come up during the painting. So I'm just going to use my little needle applicator here because you don't want a bunch of this, but you just put little dots all the way down the seam. So I'm going to do that for all the seams, and then I'm going to go and drill the chimney hole straight down through the existing hole through the ceiling. So I put a little block of wood under this, put it in the drill press so I get it vertical, drill straight down through.